Hello, everybody. It's Max with Crypto Talk now. When it comes to XRP, there's all sorts of different price prediction. And if anything, it's just how do you project some of these insane market cap price levels and so on. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's particular XRP coverage. And as we can see right here, this particular individual, we have featured him before here at CTN. And he's, of course, also been featured on the likes of Crypto Lulu, so on and so forth. Listen to what his particular perspective is in regards to what you see on the XRP private ledger compared to what's on the public ledger, and when we achieve full adoption, if you will, when it comes to Ripple's on-demand liquidity. This is from Black Swan Capitalist, and we'll come back here in just a moment for some more commentary. So here we go.
Good morning, everyone. It's Rasan Al-Jarrah from Black Swan Capitalist. Real quick, I wanted to address something. A lot of people keep commenting and tweeting about how high the XRP price can go. Can it hit 100? Can it hit $1,000? Let me clarify something. The XRP price will be determined by how much value is flowing through the ledger. And at some point, we're talking about getting all the money in the world. And central bank digital currency adoption is not possible without the adoption of XRP first. And if we're talking again about all the money in the world, we're talking roughly about $4 quadrillion in value. And at some point, XRP being a bridge currency, all that money is going to have to flow back and forth through the ledger. And that's really what's going to determine how high the price is. But then again, XRP being a neutral bridge asset and currency, it has to be backed by a commodity such as gold. And we already have confirmed that the Bank of International Settlements is going to reevaluate the gold price to a much higher number. So the price will have to be very, very high, guys.
Yes, indeed. The price will have to be very, very high, to say the least. All right, a little bit more in regards to this particular topic, and actually coming from him once again. It's all about the perspective, but I mean, if anything, it's not trying to, give you guys unrealistic expectations or anything. I mean, me personally, I'm looking for XRP reach price levels exceeding, 10K. And let's face it, for people that are looking from the outside in, a lot of this, to them seems unrealistic and so on. They base it on, a few factors like, last year's all-time highs of, roughly a global crypto market cap of 4 trillion, right, on everything, not specifically on the likes of XRP and so on. But what they don't realize, right, is basically how we achieve some of these particular market caps, right? How do you put a proper perspective or price on the likes of XRP when this hasn't been fully adopted yet, right? And if anything, how we achieve that, like we mentioned here at CTN, is we achieve it by these particular central banks of the world and so on, taking on that adoption of Ripple's on-demand liquidity. Now listen to this. It says XRP is 327,000 on the private ledger. Listen to this particular example. Again, it's all about perspective, but giving you an idea of what we could basically see here in the near future, right, when it comes to the likes of XRP. And if anything, again, that full adoption, because it hasn't been there yet. And we're in the process of doing just that. All right. We'll be back in just a moment, here in about 1:30.
No, so I don't think they're using another XRP. I know they have a private ledger and a public ledger. I've seen the private ledger once. I've seen the price go as high as $327,000. And you could see this on one of my shorts when it hit about $10,000, 9,000, I think. I've commented to about 20, 30 people at least that I saw it go to 327,000 on a YouTube video once. That was live in Japan. And from 5 minutes, a 5-minute YouTube video. And I've seen that the private ledger does exist. The public ledger also exists. Now, how do they keep them separate? Through nodes on the XRP ledger, right? The thing is, what the merge of the private and public, I think that will happen when this utility starts to come on, right? Also, I don't want to lose my train of thought. The XRP ledger, the private ledger, right, and the public ledger, at some point, they're going to have to, how would I say? There will be a merge at some point, guaranteed, but we have to have that regulation first and that clarity before they go ahead and utilize them.
All right, so again, I just kind of want to give you guys more of that particular perspective. I believe that, you know, these things that basically will happen. I mean, it simply makes sense that, you know, these things, or this merge, if you will happen as far as, you know, everything's going to happen, for instance, with ISO 222 coming up in March, so on and so forth. I mean, you can't just have everything privatized, if you will. They'll definitely figure it out. This is Ripple we're talking about. They're definitely going to figure it out. So a little bit more into our particular coverage. I want to show you this in particular. I know a lot of this I'm out of the frame at the moment, but if anything, I don't want to just keep zooming in and out. But check this out. This particular one's from, you know, a guy that we feature here quite often, right? Crypto Lulu. It says, for instance, in this panel discussion, Ripple don't care about being known, right? Well, let's face it, from a retail perspective, and you see a lot of that kind of going on right now, right? Their focus is not on retail. Now, again, this particular one is about 1:06, and I know there's a lot of, you know, us or me showing, you know, clips in that regard. But if anything, again, I want to just keep pounding it home more and more the significance of why we show you guys these particular clips. I mean, if anything, they're highlights, kind of gets to the point and so on. But I also like hearing, or seeing, I should say, for instance, whether it's Crypto Lulu, some of these other guys that he features and so on, panel discussions talking about these specific things, you know, because let's face it, in order to properly achieve the mass adoption, the insane market caps and so on, basically that is done through the financial sector, not the retail. Listen to this particular perspective. We'll be back also in 1:06.
Like anything in life, and I used to come back full circle to the rail conversation we started with. Trains run all around the world. It works because the train company has manufactured a really good train, then there's the seats within that train, and that seat company's made really good seats for that service. They're all doing different things, but we don't think about the company that made the rails, right? So all of these things happen above ground. No one actually even knows who the company is, but it's doing it in the background. And I really think that's what Ripple's position will be. It won't be front facing until they have a bank, and then that'll be a whole other element of it. But for the most part, I don't even think they care about being known because they know what they're doing. They're happy to be the rail holding up the train, holding up that whole other ecosystem that all the people are on.
And we're happy holding the rails. That's why we're excited.
Exactly.
We're excited. That's what we tell her. You just want to own the rails, right? At the end of the day, if you remember the Bilderberg, you know, the Vanderbilts, all of them, they made the money making the rails, right? Or the guys who sold the picks, and to all the people going gold mining, right? You want to be the guy selling the picks, not the guy trying to dig for gold.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you just basically put it into, like, you know, for instance, layman's terms, right? You know, it's not about, you know, digging the gold. It's recognizing the utility, right? He basically broke down like what happened, you know, let's say, for instance, you know, a few hundred years ago and so on. And the way I look at it when it comes to Ripple's XRP, you know, it's just that, recognizing their particular utility, and that is a fair analogy, right? You know, the rails, right? That's, I couldn't have said it better myself. All right, a little bit more in regards to our particular coverage here at CTN. Again, this is just a picture, but as the saying goes, you know, a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? So, actually, I'm going to zoom back out. So, look at this. You know, for instance, it says XRP partners. I mean, look at that. You know, it said picture is worth 1,000 words. I mean, there's not 1,000 partners there, but I mean, there's, you know, probably like well over 100, right? And some of those are some big names, to say the least. I mean, it's really, really quite impressive, you know, some of Ripple's partners. And for instance, it says BTC partners, right? El Salvador. And, you know, don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't want people to necessarily think like I'm bashing on, you know, Bitcoin and so on. And let's face it, we do have some Bitcoin maxis who, especially come over to the quant videos and so on. And, you know, they'll post, for instance, you know, quant isn't, you know, Bitcoin with utility, and they'll state things like Bitcoin is the end all be all, and it's just like, really? I mean, I understand that there's transaction finality and so on, but it's like significantly longer. The fees are a lot more expensive. I mean, it's just like, I'll put it this way, right? You probably heard other content creators say this. I know some of you guys basically watch, like, for instance, Rich at MaximusCrypto. Shout out to him. He does provide very great content. But he pointed out, for instance, a while back, specifically speaking, those who got into the likes of, for instance, Bitcoin, right, at like 69K, right, the top of the mountain, to a sense, this will be their last chance to, take some profits when, let's face it, if Bitcoin did go up to $100,000 or more and so on, right? And if anything, from there, it's like, are we realistically going to see Bitcoin go to, 200,000, a million, like some people have predicted and so on? No, because it's not innovative, right? It doesn't provide that particular utility. And I get that debate. People say, well, it's a true commodity. There's no CEO behind it. That's the value behind it and so on. All right, I get that. But if anything, I'm talking about specifically those people who came in, again, at the top of the mountain. You should never enter into a particular crypto project at just at the top of the mountain. That'd be like somebody, like, for instance, coming into the likes of, right, XRP at the very top of the mountain, right? Just don't make any sense. Why would you do that? So I just wanted to basically point out some of these particular things. I still feel as though we're so incredibly early, right? All right, a little bit more. Another guy that, of course, we cover here quite a bit, which is Coach JV. We do share some of his particular insight and so on. I know some people feel as though that, like, sometimes he's kind of out there and so on. Yeah, keep in mind, we have all sorts of different personalities. I do, he does, you name it, right? But if anything, it's people who provide good information, a sense of value, and so on. Now, this specifically is something I want you to draw your attention to. And the reason I want to do this is because in our last particular XRP video, we did touch briefly on the subject of ICE 9, right? And on that particular banking freeze. And so, again, if you haven't seen the last video, again, refer to it. And it does break down a little bit in that particular video, just that. So anyway, let's listen to this, and then we'll come back in about 3 minutes.
There are some very, very bold predictions for 2023. One of the things that's going around is ICE 9, banking freeze. Jim Rickards, about 2 years ago, brought this up, and he writes about it in his book. ICE 9, the banking freeze, is when banks shut down all the banking system. And now how could this potentially happen? As he explains, link in my bio, I show you the YouTube video where he explains that it happens when there's a catalyst with one specific bank or specific institution. When a specific institution shuts down, that causes a ripple effect. And that ripple effect happens so fast that all banks have to shut down to stop and mitigate the bank runs and the liquidity crisis. The fact is, our banking system is in a liquidity crisis. That's why China, Russia, America, and a lot of central banks have been stacking gold. And that's why a lot of these very wealthy people are stacking land. So on Twitter, Vandal Black Swan Capitalist showed a video 2 years later, just recently, around a retired asset manager or retired banker that talks about ICE 9 once again. So what he says is ICE 9, all of a sudden they shut down all the banks, boom, you wake up with a central bank digital currency. Now you've heard me talk a lot about this. I'm not sure if I think that's going to happen, but I do know a central bank digital currency is coming. And what he states is that it'll be 1-to-1 when you wake up with your central bank digital currency. So if you have $300 in your account, they'll say, okay, good, you have $300 in your CBDC, transfer it over. They will also give you a cool little pump in your bank account, maybe $3,000, $5,000 to get you started to keep the people happy. But those who have large amounts of wealth will have an IOU in the future for the 1-to-1 transfer. So if you have $1 million, $10 million, hundreds of thousands of dollars, they may say you'll get a certain amount and it will give you an IO in the future, and you know you're never going to get that money. Here's what I do know, is that right now, as we speak, central banks and countries are moving into a central bank digital currency. America is testing the digital dollar right now with large institutions. It's happening right now. We are in a liquidity crisis as a world. America's debt to income ratio is negative. And I truly believe in my heart we're moving back to an asset-backed currency in a digital currency type of way. And we need liquidity. XRP, XLM, cryptocurrency, blockchain, things like that provide massive amounts of liquidity, specifically XRP. So comment here, do you think something like ICE9 could happen in America or globally? So I'm invested in fundamental cryptos, precious metals, leveraged life insurance, and I'm diversified heavily in business. And next is getting into land and physical structures. Warriors!
All right, so shout out to Coach GV on that particular coverage. And I just thought, this is a perfect opportunity to refer back, of course, to our previous coverage in regards to that particular interview you saw with the older gentleman when it came to ICE9. All right, a little bit more. This particular one, right? It states, for instance, and of course, this is Johnny Crypto, right? You guys, of course, seen him featured in these particular panel discussions with the likes of Crypto Lulu and so on. Specifically mentions, like what you see right here, it says, crypto won't pump until this happens. This one's about a minute and a half. We'll also come back for some more commentary.
Working for the Federal Reserve, and we see that as working together as the overledger for all these systems to bring it together. Similar to what TCP/IP did in the 1990s for the internet, we feel that there has to be something there, and we believe. I know this is very much quant and Chainlink, but it feels like quant's the one. What's your thoughts on that? Interoperability.
Well, quant's the overledger to like everything. I think what we need to understand here is that this isn't XRP's game. It's not XLM's game. It's not Quant's game. It's all of their game. And so everything that each one of them does is vital in the ecosystem that is the new system. And I believe that those ISO 20022 tokens are that kind of web, that network, that ecosystem in this new system. You need Quant to do what it does. You need Hedera to do what it does. Like, it all links together, and you can't have this full utility, full rollout unless they're all doing their job. XRP can't do it alone. XDC can't do it alone, but all of them together are the change.
And that's
so that's what we're waiting for.
Yeah, that's what we talk about all the time on this show, is that it's all about the coexistence of these different technologies that are going to work together, right, for this whole system to work. You need everybody doing their role. And so I feel it's going to be like layers on top of layers of a system that's going to, with XRP being the rail, then Quant being the overledger.
So as much as I, have been tempted to be, where I joke around, right, where I say, I'm going to be Quant Maxi, right? It's like, it's still great to have a diversified portfolio, and especially when it comes to the likes of these ISOs, right? Just totally makes sense. If anything, it's these technologies of these, different companies in regards to specifically, let's face it, the ISOs and so on, recognizing their technology and how they, coexist and help each other by providing different forms, different services to make this, like it was mentioned, interoperable. Everybody has a role, like you mentioned. All right, a little bit more. How about this one? All right, this is the cream of the crop for today's video for people who stuck through the very end. This is old. This was, of course, back on September 30th. And, if anything, we did share this on the live show, but it was never brought to you guys on the recording. So if you haven't seen this before, again, thank you so much for staying to the very end of this particular video. You're going to absolutely love this. And if you do use Twitter or anything like that, or, if you're just a guy that uses YouTube and so on, share this particular section with fellow friends, colleagues, and so on, who, for instance, might not know about XRP or want to know about some of the partnerships and so on. If anything, I think you and also they will appreciate the wonderful job that this particular individual made on this clip when it comes to Ripple's XRP. This is, I still rate this probably like the best clip I've ever seen for XRP because it really nails it really, really well. Like Linda P. Jones basically mentions right here, this is the most, basically the best explanation of why we invest in XRP and Ripple stock Great job. Yeah, this is amazing. It says, why do I hold XRP? This video should make it clear. And this is 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And of course, I'll come back into the frame after that for some closing commentary. All right, here we go.
Why do I hold XRP? Because Ripple's the chosen one to lead the new global digital payment system, and they use XRP. In 2013, the Federal Reserve began looking for faster payments options. 2 years later, an action plan was born and a federal payments task force was created. It included one company focused on crypto, Ripple. In 2014, the World Bank and Better Than Cash Alliance, which includes the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Clinton Global Initiative, and the governments of 32 countries, put out a report called The Opportunities of Digitizing Payments. 1 year later, the Better Than Cash Alliance featured one crypto company on their website, Ripple. Today, Better Than Cash Alliance and all other UN initiatives are focused on a single agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. You can see the SDGs logo on Bill Gates' lapel, world-leading companies, the Better Than Cash Alliance website, and on the UN's official exchange, Exchange. What crypto is Exchange officially utilizing for their carbon credit solution? XRP. The world will move to a new international standard for exchanging electronic messages between financial institutions by 2025 called ISO 20022. Who was the first ISO 20022 member focused on distributed ledger technology? Ripple. Who's partnered with over 300 financial institutions, including Bank of America, American Express, PNC, Santander, SBI, HSBC, Standard Chartered Bank, Bank of England, India, Singapore, Scotland, Australia, and Indonesia, the largest banks in Japan, Canada, Egypt, the Middle East, United Arab Emirates, Thailand, Morocco, Bhutan, South Korea, Brazil, and Latin America? Ripple. Who is a former employee overseeing the Federal Reserve? Ripple. A former employee overseeing the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock's digital asset division? Ripple. Leading Australia's CBDC effort? Ripple. Who hired a former Treasury of the United States? Ripple. 2 former Federal Reserve attorneys to their board? Ripple. 2 former Clinton and Obama advisors? Former Minister of Defense and Economics of Germany? Former business director at Swift, former Swift board member, former CFO of PayPal, former head of the DTCC, former chief business officer at Uber, former VP of Amazon, and former SEC chair on their legal team? Ripple. Who's a member of the Digital Pound Foundation, Digital Dollar Project, Digital Euro Association, Mojaloop, IMF's high-level advisory board on fintech, Hyperledger Blockchain Consortium, Open Payments Coalition, Faster Payments Council, Global Payments Steering Group, Cross-Border Working Group, International Association for Trusted Blockchain Applications, Crypto Climate Accord, University Blockchain Initiative, World Wide Web Consortium, and a featured partner of the World Economic Forum with 3 members of their team directly listed on the WF website? Ripple. Now, does Ripple and XRP sound like they're going to disappear, or do they sound like they're part of a much bigger plan? You decide.
All right, yeah, that was just when I share that and so on. I show that to people, and they're just blown away, to say the least. Especially for some people who are maybe doubting or Ripple or just don't know a lot about it and so on. Because I mean, if anything, that's just a very powerful message, to say the least. I mean, shout out to the guy who originally made that and so on. So, there's a lot that's going to happen specifically here soon. With come up in March and so on. Let's face it. I mean, there is possibilities that they could delay this again and so on, but I don't think so. I think this next time around, when you hear particular conversations made about, for instance, this is a mandate. You got to keep in mind, last time around with November with ISO 222, that was for instance the onboarding, if you will, right? And we still have voluntary onboarding when it comes to these specific banks and so on. But when you hear, for instance, for March of 2023, the term mandate, big difference, right? So, guys, that is it in regards to today's video for the likes of XRP. Technically speaking, I mean, you can even throw Quant into the mix and so on. I really like that particular example of what they mentioned with Quant. They briefly, of course, mentioned Adair's H-bar. In the future, we'll definitely cover some of these other ones, H-bar, ALBT, and so on. Be on the lookout, believe it or not, for a deep dive ALBT review from CTN's own Larry Crypto, who is part of our particular network and so on. He shows up a lot more, of course, on our live show and so on. He's the one who originally started this particular channel about roughly a year ago and so on. But yes, by all means, be on the lookout for that particular coverage. Really looking forward to it myself and so on. I hope you do as well. A lot of people, of course, consider ALBT kind of like, is Tim Shea. Shout out to Tim Shea if you happen to be watching. Quant's, little cousin, little lesser known cousin, if you will. So, again, guys, like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And by all means, press that bell notification. Enjoy a live show. Check us out at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific every single day of the week. All have a blessed day, and we'll see you on the next one.